about a week ago, I posted a video talking about endometriosis and you guys left a couple of questions, so let me go ahead and answer some of them. Also, last time I wanted to do a yellow look because the color for endometriosis is yellow, but I was really scared to try that, but I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna be brave and try yellow. If it doesn't look good, oopsie daisies, I'm not a makeup artist. But we're gonna try. We're gonna try and see where it gets us. So one of the questions I got was, did I have a hard time getting doctors to believe me for the endometriosis? So I was really lucky. Pretty much every doctor I talked to believed me. Based off my symptoms alone, they were like, oh yeah, that sounds like you got endometriosis, girly. Now what I had a hard time getting them to believe was my PMDD, but that's a whole other story for a whole other day, and PMDD Awareness Month is next month, so you can hear about it then. But yeah, for endo, like nobody really had issues. They were like, okay, yep, you sound like you're in a lot of pain, and endo sounds like it's the culprit. You've got all the symptoms. I will say though, I did search the hell out of gynecologists. I purposely made sure that their website said endometriosis on it. I would recommend that for somebody, like when you look at gynecologists, make sure their website says endometriosis. Bonus points if they are a specialist, that's what you really want, but those are far and few between. So if you see endometriosis on the website, that's at least a good sign that they've heard of it. So the next question is, how do you get checked for it? So here's the complicated thing about endometriosis. It is very, very sneaky, and it is very hard to see. That's why I recommend going to a specialist. Now, I'm sure each doctor has different ways that they diagnose it. Actually, with me, they diagnosed it based on symptoms alone. They were like, we are so positive that you have it that we're just gonna go ahead and put it in your chart, and if you don't have it, oh wells, but if it's in your chart, then insurance is more likely to cover it. Now for the actual diagnosis, the 100% certainty. So the first thing that they had me do is get 2 ultrasounds. If that came back clear, the next step was gonna be an MRI. I had to get both an external ultrasound and an external, which I have beef. All my life, everybody was like, oh yeah, getting an external ultrasound isn't that bad because they put this warm goo on your stomach. You liars, it was not warm. It was cold. She put that on my stomach and I was like, ah! There's nothing warm about that. But anyways, yeah. Moving on. Both my ultrasounds came back clear. So then I go to the MRI and that also came back clear. And it is very common for your results to come back clear when you have endometriosis. It usually doesn't show up on imaging unless you have a very severe case. So once everything came back clear, it kind of proved to the insurance like, hey, we're not finding anything, so we have to go inside to see what it really is. So that's when I got my surgery, and in the surgery is when I got the official diagnosis. Surgery is the only way to get a proper diagnosis. Like I said, really bad cases do pop up on imaging, but you really got to get in there to see it. It's a very sneaky disorder. So the next question I got was, is endometriosis something that eventually stops, or do you have to keep dealing with it for the rest of your life? So unfortunately, endometriosis is for life. They still have not figured out what causes it, and there is also no cure. I mean, you can get the surgery, and like me, I do feel way better after the surgery, but it can always grow back. Like so far I've been good, but I've definitely heard stories from women who have had to get surgery multiple times. They get the surgery, they get it all removed, and then like 2 years later they're back on that operating table getting it removed again. And it's a very case by case scenario. That was another question I got, is if endometriosis has different symptoms for different people, and it 100% does. And it's one of those disorders that things you wouldn't even think are related to it are. Like I've heard cases of patient had endometriosis on their lungs, and every time their period came, they had a hard time breathing. Like it's crazy the things that it attaches to. And if you don't get the surgery, it's gonna keep growing and it's just gonna keep causing problems. So there's all kinds of symptoms it can cause. I can only really tell you about my symptoms, but yes, I would say it's a very different experience for different people. Like for instance, endometriosis has 3 stages, but the stages don't necessarily have anything to do with how much pain you're in or how many symptoms you're feeling. There's some people who have endometriosis and have no idea because they don't get any symptoms, and then there's people like me who had it and were just in agony. So yeah, I would say the symptoms vary for sure. Now this next question, I had 2 different people asked me this, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know the answer. I'm gonna say it anyways, just in case there's people who are watching this that can put in the comments the answer. But I had a few people ask me if UTIs are common with endometriosis. And personally, I did not have that problem. I've only had 2 UTIs in my entire life. One of them was when I was a teenager, and one of them was right after my hysterectomy, which it's common to get a UTI after a hysterectomy. But I don't know. I feel like I have heard people say that's a thing, but I don't want to speak on it because that was not my experience, and it's not something I've looked into either. So if there's anybody watching this that has endometriosis and they're a little more familiar with this question, please answer it, because I did have people curious about it and I just didn't know. This thing's like empty, but I'm too lazy to go grab the full bottle. Oh, it's totally empty. Darn it. But yeah, that's all the questions I got, and here's the makeup. What do you guys think? I was a little too scared to go like full yellow because just not a color I use very often. I usually just do a little bit of yellow and not a whole lot, so I was too afraid to go full blown, but it's still cute. Anyways, if you have any more questions about endometriosis, let me know. If you have questions about PMDD, also let me know. That's it for now, folks. Folks. How do you say that word? I never say that word. That's it for now, guys.